Boa noite, viajantes aqui do Cambly. Sejam muito bem-vindos a mais uma das nossas super lives que traz para pertinho de vocês os nossos tutores nativos aqui do Cambly. E hoje eu quero fazer uma pergunta. Você quer falar inglês com confiança para viajar esse mundão sem medo, numa boa? Então você está no lugar certo, porque hoje o Tutor Tim da Inglaterra vai nos oferecer dicas importantes sobre viajar para o exterior, porque ele é um especialista em viagens, já morou em diversos países, já viajou por mais de 36 países, então ele sabe tudo sobre essa aventura que é explorar esse mundo diverso, em que a língua inglesa sempre, sempre, sempre vai ser assim a sua maior aliada para você enfrentar aí todos os percalços do caminho que poderão advir, mas sem passar tanto perrengue. E para você que está aqui pertinho da gente, que sabe qual é a boa, está ligadíssimo nas oportunidades do Cambly, temos um spoiler maravilhoso para te dar agora mesmo, porque hoje você garante o seu plano anual a partir de R$ 64 por mês, minha gente. Sim, basta usar o código que vai aparecer aqui na tela, ó, e clicar no link que está na descrição aqui dessa live para escolher o seu plano anual com o melhor preço. Mas você tem que correr, tá? Combinado aqui, porque essa promoção é por tempo super limitado e hoje você está aqui saindo na frente para garantir aqui que você não vai perder, tá bom? E se você não está familiarizado com o Cambly, é uma plataforma de ensino de inglês totalmente online que te conecta instantaneamente em aulas ao vivo com o tutor nativo da sua preferência. Você vai ter aqui também um spoiler de como funciona uma aula aqui com o Cambly e, obviamente, pode mandar suas perguntas, trazer suas questões, usar e abusar aqui dessa oportunidade de estar falando ao vivo com um tutor nativo e conte comigo aqui também para te ajudar nessa intermediação e com a nossa equipe que está aí nos comentários também, dando todo o apoio e suporte para suas dúvidas. Então, deixa seu like, curte aqui já o vídeo, já deixa seu comentário, porque sem mais delongas, vamos chamar o Tutor Tim aqui para dentro e começar essa jornada bilíngue aqui para você não passar mais perrengue nas suas viagens internacionais. Combinado? Estão prontos? Então, bora dar um welcome aqui ao Tutor Tim. Welcome, Tutor Tim. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello there. No problem. You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. And Tutor Tim, how long have you been tutoring on Cambly?
Just 1 month away from 3 years now. I started during the pandemic, like about maybe 6 months into the pandemic or something like that. So yeah, about 3 years.
And you're also a traveler yourself, so not you're only an experienced tutor here in Cambly, but you're also like a traveler and you lived abroad in several countries. So how was that experience?
Well, life-changing to say the least. No, it's been a fantastic ride, and that's what made it quite simple for me when joining Cambly, because obviously when you travel for so long, you meet people from all over the world, and then you just naturally get comfortable just meeting people from everywhere and adapting to people with different levels, people with different personalities. But yeah, overall, it's been an incredible experience. Like, I think the best thing about it is that it teaches you a lot about yourself, because you find out about a lot of things that you're capable of, a lot of your strengths, and maybe even some of your weaknesses that you can work on. But yes, overwhelmingly a positive experience.
And what can you tell us? Maybe your top 5 of your favorite destinations?
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, it's not an easy one, but I've answered this question a few times with other students, so it's going to be a little bit quite diverse, my list. So it's going to sound kind of random, but number 5 would be Sri Lanka.
Ooh.
Number 4 would be France, even though it's close to the UK, but I still love that country. Number 3 is Portugal. And eventually I do want to live there pretty soon. That's my aim. Number 2 is Canada, and I did a work and holiday visa there and highly recommend it. And number 1 is New Zealand.
Oh, that's so cool. And pessoal, guys, do you have any favorite spot, or do you have a dream destination that you would like to ask about? Maybe Tim has already gone there, so it's a good way for you to get to know some cider steps of that place. How many countries have you been to?
36 so far.
36. That's like a lot. Have you ever been to Brazil?
No, but I really want to go genuinely. But if I do go to Brazil, I would go for a minimum of 3 months, maybe more, I think. As well as Brazilians themselves, it's been highly recommended to me from other people I've met from around the world. And yeah, Brazil has been very high on my to-do list for a number of years, and I just really hope genuinely that I get to go there sooner rather than later, because I really do believe I'm going to enjoy the country for a number of different reasons.
Cool. We have here Thais Peixoto saying her dream destination is France, and one of your favorites. Can you maybe tell a little bit more about why you love so much this destination?
Well, I've been there 6 times, and I mean, everything is subjective, of course, but probably, I mean, it's so diverse, but I mean, luckily my parents took me there when I was really, really young, like multiple times. And then I just started to get into the habit of revisiting, particularly the south of France, because I've got friends who live in that part of the country, like close to a town called Rocamadour, which is like a very medieval kind of town. Actually, that's why France is one of my favorites, because I love medieval architecture and buildings. And when you go to the south of France, it's really, really relaxed. But I mean, anywhere you go, I think you're going to find some really beautiful locations, whether it's to do with architecture or whether it's to do with countryside or nature. And and of course, it just gives you really good access to the rest of Europe as well. So and the food is quite nice. I've had a good experience with French people, so as you can tell,
which is not very common.
Yeah, maybe I'm the lucky one.
Yeah, and a lot of people here, Brunella, Elio, Bruno, Bruno, but people are talking about Canada, that's also in your top 5. Why is Canada so amazing?
Again, it's because of like the real relaxed kind of nature. But I mean, I spent my time in the west of Canada, and in the west of Canada, I'm not saying that there's no nature in the east of Canada. Obviously there is, but if you go west, I think you're more likely to come across a higher amount of epic scenery, like mountains and forests and lovely coastlines. And also you get to see a lot of wildlife, and that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite. It's a combination of epic landscapes and just amazing animals that you get to see, like wolves, bears, elk, like sea lions, a few different types of whales, orcas. And it's quite incredible, really, that you're able to see these animals so frequently. I mean, obviously you need to be in the right places for it, but it's really not that difficult to find out where to see them. And so basically anybody who loves the outdoors and nature, Canada is going to tick a lot of boxes. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And here we have people wondering, they're willing to travel around and improve their English and learn English. And do you have a lot of students that reach out to you with this kind of goal?
Yes, actually, I'd say there's a very high percentage of students who say that the reason that they call me on Cambly is because they look at my profile and they find out that I've traveled so much. And then like we go over basic information, and then it doesn't take them too long to ask questions about travel. So I would say a good 2/3 of the conversations, maybe even 70% of conversations I have on Cambly involve travel. Um, so, and yeah, it feels really good to give them advice, and they give me advice sometimes as well on places that I've never been to before. So it's kind of a win-win situation for me and the students. Yeah.
And how would you say you would structure a lesson for someone who has this goal in mind when learning English?
Well, basically, I give them the option of having a conversation, or we do have lesson plans on Cambly available. So, I'm going into it right now to demonstrate. So there's there's a few different types of English for travel that are available. Let me see if I can get it up for you.
Yeah. So while you're searching for that, I'm gonna explain to people. So, então, pessoal, o que eu acabei de perguntar, se vocês estão acompanhando aqui, é como ele estrutura uma aula aqui no Cambly, né? No caso do plano de aulas particulares, para pessoas que, como vocês aqui, estão super interessadas em expandir seus horizontes e viajar por aí, estando com mais confiança no inglês. Então, agora ele vai mostrar uma das ferramentas que a gente tem gratuitas aqui no Cambly para você que quer ter lições mais estruturadas sobre um determinado tópico, que são os nossos currículos. Nesse caso, os nossos currículos focados em viagem. Então, eu vou fazer aqui uma aulinha com o tutor como se fosse assim, para vocês terem um pouquinho dessa experiência. So, Tim, did you find the Cambly course?
Yep. Great. It's right here. So basically, like this one that I'm bringing up right now, it's kind of like beginner, not like full-on beginner, but it is like beginner kind of level. So it kind of eases the student into it. So basically how we do this is we go through a lesson plan, which is really easy to follow. So it means that, it takes a couple of pages for it to get going. So basically for this kind of level, I just get the students to either read what is being said on the screen, or I say it and then they repeat after me. So obviously, as you can see here, hi, what's your name? My name is, where are you from? So it's basically quite basic information.
And you can also use the chat here during your classes to help fill out those spaces. So for example,
that's right.
If I'm not comfortable on like pronunciating I'm from Brazil, I maybe can just write it down and you repeat for me, things like that.
Exactly, yes. And sometimes as well, students don't know how to say a particular sentence or a particular word in English. So they have the option of typing it in their local language into the chat, and then I can just click on this Sorry, say again?
Yes, I'm just showing why you're saying that you can translate, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then it just makes it easier then. And then if I need to type, then I can type in English and they can translate, or I could try speaking in English to see if they understand. Sometimes they understand more than they can speak, or it can be vice versa. So, or the opposite, I should say. So there is that option. But also, I mean, it's not only this kind of level, but we can even do, like intermediate kind of levels, or I'm just going to go further up the screen here. There's also advanced as well. So, I mean, and it still kind of goes through basic information, like preparing for a trip. It's just that the vocabulary and the grammar tends to be a little bit more advanced, hence the name advanced.
So on Cambly, you have these Cambly courses that goes from basic English to advanced English, and the students can choose which one they...
Exactly. Basically the students can either send the lessons to the tutors. They have the option of doing that, which means that we can just get the lesson going straight away. Or, I mean, even if they don't, though, it doesn't really matter, because we as tutors have the option of bringing up the lesson plan just by clicking on these buttons like I've done just now. So it's very, very flexible in a way where you can either just have a general conversation with tutors, or you can do a lesson plan. I mean, it's entirely up to you. So yeah, it's pretty good that way.
That's great to hear. And what would you say is the best way to feel prepared to travel abroad?
The best way to feel prepared. I think well. I mean, it's common sense, but doing a bit of research before going, that doesn't do any harm. And also, if you know people personally who have traveled, it's good to ask them, particularly if they've been to the destinations that you're thinking about going to yourself, because they can. I mean, I'm not saying that you should do exactly what they tell you, because I do believe in doing your own adventure, but at least it can get you on the right track to begin with. But yeah. So I think it's all about doing the research before you go. And obviously the internet provides so much information now. And not only does it provide great information, but if you want to travel properly instead of going as like a normal tourist, then it's very easy to find that kind of information out as well. I do think it's good to practice your English a little bit, no matter where you go, because it doesn't seem to matter where in the world you are. I mean, even if you can speak a little bit of basic English, it definitely helps you to get around.
And on this matter, we have here a question from Sophia. Yep. So thank you, Sophia. And she's asking, do you think it is important to memorize keywords, key sentence to travel when traveling?
Well, like when I went to Nicaragua in Central America, actually, as soon as I arrived, I tried to remind myself of basic Spanish sayings that are typical to get around, like asking directions, asking where can I find, and like ordering food or drink. I think those are probably the key things, and also making sure that you know numbers in English. That's really, really important, I think.
How come?
Because, well, for example, you might be going to countries where you need to do a bit of bargaining with people, like when you're buying things without prices, or if you're like taking a taxi ride or a tuk-tuk ride, then it's very, very handy to know them, just to make sure that you don't get ripped off potentially.
So that's a very smart tip, everyone. know your numbers.
I've learned the hard way sometimes. So yeah.
That was a good one. I didn't realize. And for me, I have such a hard time saying numbers in English. Because sometimes, I don't know if it's common in the UK, but when you want to say like 10,000, it's couple of, like, you use 100 instead of 1,000. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense what I'm saying. No? Okay, let it go.
Are you talking because of the number of zeros, or what?
So it's not like.
So what's the equivalent in Portuguese? Does it sound similar or different?
No, it's totally different. So let me see if someone from the audience have any questions, because I will try to explain later. So Maida, Lucy, I need to exercise conversation. Does he have a program just for this? So Lucy is asking if you, as a tutor, focus on conversation only, and how this goes.
It goes back to what I said earlier. Really, it depends on what the student wants. I would say most of the time my sessions are conversations. I think as high as maybe even 70-75% of them are. And there's a lot of times actually when students accidentally send me lesson plans, and then when I talk to them for a couple of minutes, I'm thinking, do they really want a lesson? And then I say to them, I noticed there's a lesson plan on the screen. Did you want to do this, or would you prefer to have a conversation? And many times they say, "Oh, actually, I sent this by accident. I just want to have a conversation." So, and basically, I'll talk about anything. Like I think for me, the best thing to do in the beginning is to find out a little bit about the student first, and then I get a pretty good idea on what their interests are, and then I just kind of build up from there, really. And I don't know if I speak for all of the tutors on that, but I'm pretty sure that they have a
Yeah, we
similar
can
kind of
all
mindset.
agree on
Yeah,
with that. Yeah. So
yeah,
Orlando
exactly.
helped me out here with an example. Thank you, Orlando. I will write it down in the chat to tell what I'm saying, because since you gave this great tip about numbers, so this is what happens.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you can either say 1,200 or 1,200. I kind of say both. It's not like there's a strict rule to do one or the other. I kind of say 1,200 when I feel like it, or 1,200. But I mean, probably the better way to say it is 1,200, but like 1,200 is kind of like a mini shortcut to saying that. So whether you say 1,200 or 1,200, I mean both are fine. So it's okay.
Orlando, thank you for your example. And I don't know if it's my problem because I'm not great at math, or Orlando, are you good with the numbers things? Let me know on the comments. And guys, do you have any other question for Tutor Tim? We have Tiago is asking. I'm in the beginner level. Can I fazer as aulas com base? Do you think beginners, people like Tiago who are in the very beginner of their English journey, are able to have classes with you and tutors on Cambly with just like very few vocabulary and basic English?
Yes, absolutely, no problem. Like if I talk to students who have very little vocabulary, then well, I brought up the English to Travel beginner lesson earlier on. So basically, I go through lessons like that so they can just get a grip with saying some basic things, or like the typical beginner sentences or beginner questions, beginner answers. And in my experience, and I have spoken to many students who have been in that kind of position, and to be honest, most of them are really highly motivated. So it doesn't really take them too long until they actually improve very, very quickly. So I think it is an effective approach, and so it doesn't really matter. I mean, whether it's beginner, intermediate, or advanced, I can do any kind of session. There's no problem whatsoever. So no student should feel intimidated if they are very limited with their vocabulary to begin with.
They have to start at some point, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
And on this topic, are you able to tell the students their English level and if they are prepared to travel safely with that level of English?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to give honest feedback at the end, and like I tend to start off by telling the student areas where they can maybe improve a little bit. However, I always make sure that I sound positive at the end, because it's very, very important to tell the student their good features when it comes to speaking English, because I think that really encourages them. And I mean, if you don't say the positive at the end, then I think it can be hard for them to be motivated. So I think as long as you kind of tell them what they're doing really, really good, as well as where they can improve on, then I think that definitely puts them in a good position. But like regarding travel, though, I mean, I would never discourage a student to not travel because of limited English. I would encourage them to try to learn some basics, like I said earlier. But I mean, nobody should be intimidated by it, for sure. But But yeah, I mean that would be my approach when it comes to advising students on how to go about, improving their English, so to speak.
That's great to hear. So people don't feel scared to live the life they want and travel around.
Exactly. Yes.
And guys, do you have any other questions, or do you want to give any advice, maybe where you from in Brazil, so Tim can get to know a little better and insider tip for when he's also planning his travel to Brazil. And while we're receiving these kind of comments, Tim, do you have any funny or interesting story that you would like to share that you experienced while traveling abroad?
There's an unlimited amount, but I think what I'll do is I'll tell the story about a girl I met in Canada who was, well, I'm going to tell this story just as a way of encouragement to say that, even if you are a complete beginner at traveling, you get settled into it very, very quickly. So anyway, I met this girl from Mexico, and I was going into the kitchen in a hostel I was staying. I was about to cook food, and I saw this girl walking around, and because I'd already traveled for a few years, I could see that she was kind of like having similar body language to what I had when I first stayed in a hostel. And then I started talking to her, and then, yes, very, very quickly I found out that it was her first time staying in a hostel, and it must have been really, really scary for her, given that it was in Canada and not like another Latin American country or like a Mexican hostel. And I started talking to her, and immediately I felt that she was getting more and more relaxed when she was very, very quickly understanding that people who were staying in the hostel were in a similar position to her. And then only a couple of hours later, she was talking to everybody. And then over the next few days, or even 1 week, I think it was, we did a lot of cool things as a group together. And you could have sworn that this girl had been traveling for many years. So as long as you're willing to, go out of your comfort zone and stay in, I'm not saying that you have to stay in literally a hostel. You can stay in maybe like a cheap guest house as well. But I think if you stay in accommodation like that, then not only is it budget friendly and it saves you a bit of money, but it really helps you socially. And I think it helps you settle in that much quicker. And you end up having really great experiences with people who want the same kind of things as you do. So
that's also a great advice, and thank you so much. Okay, Sophia, I've already got this question from you, so I think I just skip this one. And Sylvia, I know people here are focusing on traveling and looking to travel abroad, but we also have a here important question, because people have to work to have money to to travel also, right? And Sylvia is asking, I need to learn English because of my job, and she's asking if on Cambly she can improve their English in about 6 months. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, say 6 months for sure. Yeah, actually, well, I spoke about there was a lot of students who joined Cambly because they wanted to improve their English for social reasons. But to be honest, there's a very high percentage of students who wanted to join Cambly because they work in a business or they work in a company where they communicate in English a lot. So, and I went through some of the lesson plans earlier on regarding English for travel, but there's also business English available with these lesson plans. So, if students really needed to know, more business vocabulary and how to communicate in like if they needed to do like a presentation or like a meeting or something like that, we do have lesson plans that cater towards that kind of learning as well. And also, too, there are some students who want to do their IELTS test because they need to pass them in order to either study abroad or maybe even work abroad. So we do have lessons dedicated towards that. And but yeah, I mean, in 6 months, there's no reason. I mean, in 6 months, there's a big chance of a huge improvement during that time. I mean, as long as you're motivated and dedicated, and you're taking on board what's coming from the lessons, then there's no reason why you shouldn't improve very, very quickly. But however, I don't think students should put pressure on themselves because different people learn at different speeds. So I think you need to kind of make allowances for that. But yeah, but the more you practice, the more you're going to improve. It's as simple as that, really. So yeah.
That's very comforting. Thank you, Tim, for all your thoughts and tips. It was amazing.
You're
welcome. So people can find you on Cambly. Tim, how do you pronounce your last name?
Have a try.
Oh my God, British names are the hardest. Okay.
It's actually not a common surname. This is why I'm asking you to try, because not many people have this surname.
Okay, so Tim Leeson.
Yeah, not bad. You're almost. There's 3 different ways you can pronounce it. There's Leishan, Leishan, but I say Leishan.
Leishan. Okay, so Tim Leishan. We have your profile attached on the link below on the description of this live. And I hope, guys, you contact Tim to talk all about your favorite places to visit or your hometown, so Tim also can visit. And
it'd be good to have recommendations. Yes.
Yes. And thank you so much. And see you next time, Tim.
No worries. You're welcome. Obrigado.
Oh, thank you. Obrigada. Bye.
Bye.
Pessoal, eu espero que vocês tenham adorado esse papo com o Tutor Tim. Ele é realmente um especialista em viagens, como vocês podem ver. Deu várias dicas valiosas aqui para vocês não se enrolarem com questão de dinheiro, com os preços que o pessoal cobra aí por aí nos lugares, os melhores lugares para ir, o top 5 dele. Então, rolou muita coisa boa nessa live que você pode rever para treinar também o seu listening, ficar aqui mais engajado com o inglês e começar a sua jornada bilíngue para você poder fazer qualquer outra jornada nesse mundão que você deseja. Porque hoje você já está garantindo aqui em adiantamento o nosso planos anuais com super preço. Então, se você quer começar o seu plano aqui no Cambly, o seu plano anual com o melhor preço, é o desconto exclusivão aqui, ó, tá na tela. Então, Fale Inglês 2023 e vai aqui, corre no link aqui na descrição para você adquirir o seu plano anual pelo melhor preço, tá bom? Então, eu fico por aqui e boa preparação de viagem para todos vocês. Até a próxima. Tchau, tchau. Tim, thank you so much.